Dose of gold, stories of the bold, where legends are told. From first pop drop to the season's full, tune in and watch the drama unfold.
Following what has been a very chaotic past few days, 48 hours for this Toronto Maple Leafs team, we have Keith Pelley and presumably others speaking out and getting interviewed here today. We're going to have you covered. It starts in about 3 minutes, and we'll be, presenting it live here, which we'll show you in a minute. But this is Keith Pelley. We're unsure at this exact moment, what if Brad Treliving's joining him, all these different things. There's still a couple question marks, but what we do know for sure, we are about to witness some Keith Pelley speaking out, and this is very notable because Brendan Shanahan was fired yesterday. Darius is here from his hotel room as well. What's up, everybody in the chat? Like we've promised all along, we're going to keep you up to date with everything related to the Toronto Maple Leafs, and of course, obviously, in this case, the interview now, which is starting in 2 minutes, and we will shift over to it here. Darius, how are you feeling about everything? You see there on the bottom left, once it starts, we'll have audio for you all, of course, and 1 minute and 50 seconds until Keith Pelley, and I'm curious to see if Brad Treliving, if it might not be Brad Treliving, if Brad Treliving isn't alongside Keith Pelley, that means we'll have another, presumably, press conference here at some point next week, I would assume. But Darius, how are you feeling? We're 1 minute and 30 seconds away from Keith Pelley breaking the silence.
Yeah, thanks for the concern, guys. Nick in the chat. I prefer mobile studio. That's where we're at today. But shout out to Nick for getting me in here. But yeah, I'm actually a little bit surprised to hear that I think Brad Treliving won't be speaking today, because I do want to hear what the GM has to say about the team season. I do really want to hear that. So I hope he speaks at some point. But obviously, all attention today is what they're doing in terms of restructuring with MLSE. I think this actually affects, this press conference is obviously a Leafs press conference, but a lot of what they say today might actually affect the Raptors too, which I think is interesting. So everything's going to change today. I think, but we'll see what happens. And a lot is going to change after this press conference too, with Rogers. This time next year, they might be 100% owners of the Toronto Maple Leafs. So it's going to start soon. I want to hear what Keith Pelley has to say here.
Yeah, Darius is traveling. For those wondering, he's traveling. Yeah, that's fine.
And a mobile studio.
Mobile studio, we'll call it. As you can see here, waiting for the Leafs. And again, if you missed the last one, we'll have it all for you here. So this is you can just stay here. We can watch it together. We'll be reacting as it happens, but of course, mainly afterwards. While they're speaking, tons of different things are going to be happening here. Shout out to everybody in here. What's up, Nick, Shane, Rick, everybody? Welcome in. It's going to be I'm curious to see what kind of questions are going to be asked here, because now Keith Pelley is going to be somebody who, I guess, oversees Brad Treliving, but not necessarily from the hockey side, just, I guess, as a general thing. Because before, we know that, Brad Treliving would somewhat report to, Kyle Dubas for sure would report to Brendan Shanahan and all these different things. But now it's a bit of an interesting dynamic, I'll say, for specifically this new Keith Pelley thing. Because he said in the past he doesn't want to be someone who he's not the hockey guy, right? He's more of the business side. So I'm curious what kind of questions they're going to ask. I would assume they're going to be mainly focused on Brendan Shanahan and why they fired, but also we might get some clarity here. I don't know if this is going to be, a Mitch Marner kind of thing, but maybe on the, who they're looking to target. It seems more like a Brad Treliving thing, but I'm very curious. They have a whole press conference for it, so there's going to be a lot of questions here. And like you mentioned, I don't think Brad Treliving's in this one. I'd assume they're going to have one Monday or Tuesday. We need a GM press conference here, I think, at some point to clarify things going forward. But we're waiting for them to start now, and they're running a little bit. I don't know if they're running behind, but we're waiting for Keith Pelley to enter the studio here.
They always do a little bit. Like I expected this. They'll probably go live in like a minute or two. But I think it's interesting because, like you mentioned, like some of the moves that, like some of the questions you might get today, it's not his job if Brad Living's staying on. Like it's Brad Living's job. And if you aren't going to hire a new president, there isn't going to be a new president. You're going to have the GM, report to the CEO. And apparently, there was a story this morning that came out from Elliot Friedman that, back a couple of years ago, there was a trade on the table. A lot of people know the story, but apparently the story is wrong. And Friedman cleared it up this morning that a couple of years ago, they had a trade in place for Marc-Andre Fleury and Brandon Hagel for Matthew Nyes. And apparently Shanahan thought that he was out of the loop on everything. It's not that he, nixed the trade. It's that he felt out of the loop. So then Kyle Dubas felt like kind of weird about it. And he was like, okay, I'm going to let you know everything now. And I think MLSE saw that specific instance and then everything that's followed and been like, there's too much broken telephone going on. I think we got to remove the president role, or it's the same person. I just don't think that that's what they're going to do. So I think it's going to be, I think what Keith Pelley is going to say today is moving forward for both the Leafs and the Raptors after next year when Masai's contract is up. It's going to be Keith Pelley, and then the GMs report to Keith Pelley, and then everybody under that. And I also heard yesterday that the Leafs have 130 people on staff in terms of their hockey operations, which is, it has to be by far the most in the league. So they're trimming the fat here. I think that's what this is going to be. But this is the thing that's, I'm really excited to hear what Keith Pelley has to say about all of this and what the Leafs are going to be moving forward. But I don't think we're going to hear too much in terms of moves, which is disappointing today because that's on Brad Living. So I want to hear what Brad Living has to say about the shortcomings of the season. And obviously look at Carolina too. Like imagine if the Leafs won that game 7, right? It's I want to hear what they have to say about what they want to do moving forward. So
yeah, and Shane,
yeah,
of course,
yeah,
June 30th. But when Brad Living's interview comes along, I'm sure they'll hint at not specific players, not even just the general future of the team like they usually do, and they try to point in certain ways here. Some people are saying maybe it'll be Brad Living, Craig Berube, and Keith Pelley, like it was. I guess last year minus Craig Berube, and here it is, folks. The stream is live, so as they start to talk, I guess we're gonna have an ominous. Okay, let's do some investigating here. One chair. So it looks like it's just going to be Keith Pelley, which is interesting. And yeah, the debacle with what you mentioned with the Elliot Friedman thing, I'm happy they didn't make that trade. That would have been a bad one. And I'm hoping they test the mic so we can hear sound works as well. A little mic test? No? Okay, no mic test.
No.
Once the sound happens, of course.
What was that about?
Paper. Maybe it's the script. The script is in. Also, if you're new here, hit the like button, subscribe button. We're live for all the major press conferences, and I'll actually be in Toronto on Monday, so I wonder if Brad Living has one then. It'll be interesting there. Let me know also once the stream is on if you guys can hear it. Obviously, right now I don't believe any audio.
No, not right now. We're still waiting. But yeah, in the meantime, again, I want to hear from Brad Living as well. I'm sure Pelly's going to have something to say in regards to everything we heard yesterday. Brad Living staying on.
Yeah,
like, that's not going to change. But they want to get rid of that,
barrier,
Yeah, that barrier between CEO and GM.
I'm also very happy that they gave us a time for this one this time because the last one with
started.
it with Craig Berube and the players was just, hey, we're going live at 10:30. We're doing it at 10:30 Eastern.
Yeah, I know. I'm in my mobile studio.
Yeah, Carmelo, he's not at his normal mic, so bear with the mic. He's at his we'll call it mobile studio. Going to be a bit of traveling on both our ends, but it should be one of us are at our normal studio.
I'll be back home after the weekend.
Yeah, and I'm gone for the weekend, but I'll be, of course, on the videos with. I'll bring my external mic though. Okay, I'm very curious. This is one of the more interesting ones because I think about last year, they definitely didn't have just a Keith Pelley. And granted, they didn't fire Brendan Shanahan, but I'm sure it's going to be Shanahan focused with an heightened insight on Brad Living. And are you on your phone, Darius? I believe he is.
I'm not on my phone actually,
laptop,
which is concerning because now I guess I need a new laptop as well. I guess, but should have brought my mic. But again, mobile.
It actually sounds pretty decent to me. Sounds pretty good to me. A little, no studio, no
definitely
studio
different.
Quality.
Yeah, not the same acoustics, but
here he is. I am going to mute you, Darius. Here we go, everyone. It is time. Let me know if the audio is good in the chat, please. I think we're good. It's very quiet, by the way, right now.
Just a couple of housekeeping notes.
He hasn't spoken yet.
We'll open with remarks from Keith before opening up to questions and answers.
Audio good, guys? Let me know in the chat real quick.
Mics on either side of the rooms that you see. So if you have a question for the Q&A, please just.
I thought he's about to leave.
The mic will come to you, and please just identify yourself with your name and media affiliation, please. And then we'll do a media scrum after with Keith. This is the first time we're using this new studio for a press conference, so we'll find the right place for a scrum after that accommodates everybody. With that, I'll turn it over to Keith Pelley.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, thanks, David. Oh, nice echo in here. A little bit of an echo. Good afternoon, and thank you very much, all of you, for coming in. I apologize for bringing you out here on a Friday afternoon, but I thought it was important to address all of you after what transpired yesterday afternoon in a very rapid fashion. Yesterday was a difficult and a very tough day. Brendan Shanahan is an integral part of Leafs history. His 11 years here, he accomplished so many incredible things, and I really thoroughly enjoyed working with Brendan over the last year. He's a quality individual. He's a legend in the hockey world, and as I said to him yesterday, wherever he goes, I know he will be successful, and I wish him and his family the very best. There's been a lot of chat and a lot of discussion around pressure.
Ooh.
And pressure of being a Toronto Maple Leaf player,
He's going out.
a pressure working with the Leafs or as an executive, and even sitting in the stands on Sunday night with my 22-year-old boy. Just prior to the game, he put his hand on my leg and said, "Dad, are you nervous?" I said, "Yeah, of course I'm nervous." He said, "Do you feel the pressure?" And I said, "Yeah, of course I feel the pressure." I said, "But pressure is really a privilege, and it is a privilege to be that nervous. It's a privilege to be the CEO of MLSE, and it was a privilege to be in those seats at Game 7. And I've said it, and I said it prior to coming here in Toronto, and I really found myself over the last 10 years in Europe, running the European Tour now, the DP World Tour and the Ryder Cup, that the greatest game on earth is hockey, and it's not ice hockey, it's hockey. And the greatest hockey team in the world is the Toronto Maple Leafs. And as a result, you've seen the passion and the tribalism that exists. I saw it this year more than I could remember. And that tribalism, reminded me of my involvement in European football and what happens in the Premier League, where people are invested. They're invested in their team. It matters so much for a lot of the people, and a lot of people in Europe, and a lot of people here now in Toronto. They're as happy as the team is playing well. And there was nothing more evident than seeing that on Sunday. I respect, understand, and appreciate their disappointment in the way the season ended. I thank them for it. I thank them for the way that they've invested in the team. And I understand, to our fans, that winning is the only thing that matters. I think I said to you last year that good simply isn't good enough. And that's the case here. And having said that, we made some strides this year. And I have incredible confidence in Brad in only his second year as the general manager. I talked to him just a couple minutes ago. Unfortunately, Brad couldn't be here. Things I said happened very rapidly. He's in Calgary right now at his daughter's graduation. And the first time that we have a chance to get together will be Sunday evening for dinner. But I think we made some strides in Brad's only second season here as the general manager. Similar, I did have a great opportunity to spend a bit of time and have dinner with Chief last night, and we certainly made some strides under Chief. Yes, we won the Atlantic Division, and we came one game to making the conference finals and beating the defending champions and a pretty good Florida team that seems to be having their way with the Carolina Hurricanes right now. But as I said, winning is what matters. That's what I said again last year. That's what the ownership is committed to. That's what we're committed to. I have my utmost confidence in Brad and my utmost confidence in Craig. I'm not looking to replace Brendan. I'm looking to work closer with Brad and work closer with Craig. We will, just like in any other business, evaluate all facets of the organization in terms of how we utilize resources. We have all the resources here to be a championship team, but it's using the resources in the right way and how we structure those utilization of resources could make the difference. And that's what we will spend the next weeks looking at. I'm confident in Brad, I'm confident in Craig, I'm confident in the resources that we have. But I do believe that we, as the custodians of the biggest hockey brand in the world, have a responsibility to our fans, and that responsibility is winning championships. And we will do everything we possibly can and will not stop until we reach that goal. With that, David, I'll just open it up to Q&A.
Thank you.
I'm ready.
Again with Kevin McGrath.
Keith, just wondering whether anything might have saved Brendan's job. Like, was this a results-based decision that they didn't win the Stanley Cup, or had they done better, would he still be around for a few more years?
Well, I would answer that saying, I don't speculate on hypothetical situations. This was my decision. I had the support of ownership. Had that conversation yesterday. We made the decision. I talked to Brendan at 3 p.m. Eastern yesterday. He, as expected, acted like a true professional. The Hall of Famer that he is, understood and wanted to move very, very quickly. But outside of that, I don't speculate on hypothetical situations. We didn't win the cup.
It's a bad question.
Yep.
Keith, Chris Johnson, I'm just wondering, what will be the measure of success moving forward then? Does this team have to win the Stanley Cup next year for you to be satisfied?
I think we have to be on the pathway to win the Stanley Cup. I think the city has told us that. The media has told us that. We haven't won since 1967. I think that when you look at the last 11 years, no other team has made the playoffs 9 years in 11 years. That's a testament to the development and the foundation that Brendan built. Our next step is to take it to the next level, and we felt that this move would help us get to the next level. But make no mistake about it, making the playoffs and winning rounds is not our aspirational goal. Our goal is to win the Stanley Cup.
Josh.
Josh Clipper with the Canadian Press. Keith, I'm just wondering, you mentioned you were in the stands for Game 7. What were you thinking in the third period? One of your best players is getting booed. Jerseys are hitting the ice. Beers going over the glass. Like, what are you thinking in that moment?
It was tough. You're on sports brings you on an emotional roller coaster, and team sports in particular. I hadn't really experienced that type of emotion in some time, maybe ever. When you're running a golf tour, every single weekend you have a new winner, and you say congratulations, congratulations, but you're not cheering for anyone. The only time I felt somewhat like Game 7 was in Whistling Straits, when Team Europe, who I was running Team Europe, lost to Team US in my very first Ryder Cup. And then the euphoria in the 2018 Ryder Cup in Paris, and then the Ryder Cup in Rome when we won. So I felt those emotions, but this was at a different level. And listening to the fans and understanding and respecting it, and the electricity in the building, and I've heard this from so many people, hadn't been there even over the last number of years, and understanding I haven't been there. The electricity prior to the game and during that first period was palpable and unmeasured before. And to go from that euphoric moment to the way that we felt in the third period was very difficult. And I was saddened by it, and I feel that I need to take some responsibility for that.
Mark?
Keith, Mark Masters, TSN. The way Game 7 and Game 5 played out, you mentioned the feeling there. What was your takeaway from that? Does that raise questions about how the team is built and what you have there as the main leaders, or what were you thinking as?
Thank you, Mark Masters.
Well, I think Game 5 and Game 7 were very difficult games. Like we all know that. But I think I've already made my comments on that. I think we've made strides. Florida's a very good hockey team. We're seeing that this week as well against Carolina, who's also a very good hockey team. And as I said, I think we made strides this year, but it is now time for us to take it to another level.
Luke Fox, Sportsnet. Keith, what's over here?
Where are you?
What?
Oh, there you go.
What ideas do you have to improve the relationship or connection between the team and its fans?
I think that's an excellent question. I think it's one that we've talked about, and it's one that we've talked about over the last 24 hours, but it's also the one that we've talked about over the last 6 to 12 months. We launched a new program. You're maybe familiar with it. The Fan Access Program, which launched at the beginning of the season. At the beginning of the playoffs. We now have 13,000 fans in Fan Access. 50% of them have never been inside Scotiabank Arena. That there's an opportunity if you've been on Fan Access, which is going to grow significantly. That we're giving away tickets, and you can join Fan Access for free. There will be in the neighborhood 150 tickets next year that will be given away on a game-to-game basis, where people can enter into draws. What we need to do, and you see it outside with the younger demographic, with the tailgate party. And by the way, Fan Access, the age group is 15 years younger than the age group of our season tickets, so that's pretty significant. And I think the biggest thing is how our players relate to the fans, and it's going to be something that and quite honestly, how we relate to the media. I understand the importance of the media, having worked in it for so long. We need to embrace the media. We need to embrace the fans, and we need to be out there more. We're going to have a full, detailed plan, and we'll work on that in the off season. But that's really a priority for us, is how we relate to the fans.
Pierre? Keith, Pierre LeBrun, could you walk us through your decision not to replace Brendan? In other words, not to bring in another president? And just as a follow-up to that, do you anticipate adding another job title to Brad Treliving? A lot of GMs around the league have president of hockey as well.
You know, we're really on day one, Pierre. So anything is possible. My plan right now is to not replace Brendan, and Brad will be our GM. Whether he takes on a larger role is something that will be determined down the road. But the reality is we're a different organization because we have multiple teams. So as a result, when you have multiple teams, you have centers of excellence. And that is from your commercial side, from your ticket side, from your marketing side, from your communication side. So there are many teams, as you know, that has presidents and general managers and don't have separate presidents and general managers, similar to the National Basketball Association. There's not a right and a wrong way to do it. But at the same time, there's no real need at this particular time to make a haste decision. So everything that we will do will be methodical, and if we feel that we need to make a move like that, then we will. But at this particular time, there's no plan to do that. I have the utmost confidence in Brad Treliving and Craig Berube as our coach.
Lance?
Lance Storm from the Toronto Sun. What do you anticipate your own role to be day-to-day involvement in terms of decisions?
Well, I think it's very important to tell you is that as much as, you know, I love the game and I love the NBA and I love Major League Soccer, you know, I'm the CEO of MLSE. So the people that are going to make the key hockey decisions, the people that are going to make the key basketball decisions, are basketball-oriented people and are hockey-oriented people. My role is to be a sounding board. My role is to try to create a culture and the chemistry within that organization that builds a culture of winning championships. And so that's the way I look at it. That's the way I look at it, as a holistic leader that can provide support and guidance from a leadership perspective, from a culture side. But you know, I'm not going to be deciding who we draft and what free agents we're going to sign. That will be the decision by the hockey operations group.
David?
Hey, Keith. David Alter with the Hockey News. It's been reported that the ownership structure is going to change, or may have already changed, or expected to change this summer. Has that happened? And if it has or hasn't, how does that change how you go about your day-to-day?
Well, our ownership group, and I said this before, is one of the best ownership groups in sports. And they've provided all the resources to win. And it is my responsibility to deliver on that. And that's not going to change.
Josh?
Joshua Cloak over here, Keith.
There you go.
Keith, you let go Toronto FC's president, Bill Manning, about a year ago. In that time, the club has won 6 of 24 league matches. What have you kind of learned from not having a president at Toronto FC that you think maybe you can apply to the Leafs moving forward?
No, I don't think there's any parallel really between
Can't
that.
get that water open.
There was as I outlined at the time when we made that decision, and I also reiterated that we were changing the team ethos. We were going to change the way that we operated our academy, the way that we were going to operate the structure of that team. I am totally confident that TFC is headed in the right direction. You know, a 6-1 win against Montreal last week, the most goals they've ever scored, is the start of it. But TFC has TFC is going to contend for championships every year. I have the utmost confidence in Jason Hernandez. Jason Hernandez, this is his just his second year, and giving him the reign of that, and I'm confident about TFC. I'm not. I know we're on the right track. But when you create a team ethos, when you create of the way you want to play, of how you want to recruit players, then you have to be diligent in staying with that philosophy. And that's what we're going to do at TFC. We're not going to chase it. We're going to be diligent in that team ethos and how we want to play, what we're going to try to attract. And I'm really pleased with where we are right now.
I have time for 3 more. Lindsay?
Hi, Lindsay Dunn, City News. You just spoke about the confidence in TFC, but also spoke about how winning is what mattered in building a culture. What is your confidence in the Raptors and then building towards a winning championship? Are you looking towards organizational changes there?
I think the Raptors under Masai have obviously not only won a championship, but have started the rebuild, and I'm optimistic about the season ahead.
Started the rebuild. Or at the end
Hey
of it.
Keith, Dave McCarthy, NHL.com right here. Right here.
I got it. I'm really struggling with where to look.
You spoke about your feelings watching games 5 and 7 and how difficult that was with the response from the fans, and your ethos that championships are what it's all about. 2 significant pending free agents with the Maple Leafs. Do you think that the roster requires an element of turnover to get to that point, and to bring back the same roster? Do you think that would be accepted by the fans?
I think that's not a question for today. I think that is that's a question for Brad Treliving, and it's a question for Brad and perhaps myself after we have spent significant time together. I'm not here to talk about individual details on players or such. I'm only talking about a grandiose, holistic plan of we want to win championships, and if that's what's needed and change is needed, then we will make that. Change is natural in sport, but change is hard. I've always said that the Harvard Business School wrote in 2012 that less than 10% of people that have bypass surgery make a major modification to their diet after saying change is hard. And change is hard. Today's hard. Today's not easy. Today's hard. But change is hard. But we've made a lot of change over the last year in this team, and we've made a lot of progress. We've made change in TFC, and we're starting to see the progress. Further change will probably be needed to get us to the next level, and yesterday was the first step in that direction.
Greg?
Just at the back here. Keith, I know you're only in your first year in the role that you're in now, but in the past, you've said things like good is not good enough and you're going to change the culture, but we've heard similar things said year after year when there's failure in the playoffs. Why should anybody believe that this time is going to be different?
I can't comment on what has transpired over the last 10 years. I can only comment on what I have seen over the last year. I looked at TFC, and I didn't think that we had the right team ethos. And I think you need to be consistent with how you're going to attract players, how you're going to scout, all of that. I can't comment on the last 10 years. I can only comment on the last year. And I'm saying that we made a lot of progress under Brad and made a lot of progress under Chief. I think you'll all agree that Chief changed the culture. Now we're gonna make another step, and as I said, winning's about hoisting championships, right? And that's our goal.
Thank you very much. We'll just have Keith here
Does
for...
Rosie want to? Sorry, Rosie.
Yeah,
No,
we'll
but
do-
okay, it's up to you.
Yeah, we'll give you the mic here, Rosie.
Rosie from the Star.
Yeah.
I'm still not quite understanding, and maybe you can make clear for me. What
Shanahan did wrong, because you have a president for the Raptors. You now say you're not going to have a president for the Leafs. This can has been tied to Brendan, not the players. So can you tell me where you think he went wrong?
I don't think it's a one word or a one phrase or even a paragraph answer. At the end of the day, Brendan had a lot, has added a lot to this organization. He has revamped it. He has put it in a really good position in so many ways. But it's about results. This is a results-driven business, and it's about winning championships. And sometimes you need change to get to the next level, and that's what we feel that we needed right now.
Thank you. We'll just have Keith here for a scrum. Might have to do it in 2 waves, just given the space limitations, but we'll make it work.
I will. We'll see what's happening. What's happening now? I'm very excited to talk to you guys about this. That was an interesting press conference. I don't think the audio. I don't know exactly if they're gonna play the audio, but we'll move back. We can have this open for a little bit. So, a few different things there. Shout out to Keith Pelley for that. This is interesting because, was it a crazy, tell-all tale interview? No, it was not. But we got the word ethos a lot. That's what I took out of that. Darius, what are your thoughts? And interesting one as well. All right, let's read some of the chat. Darius, I want to get your thoughts on this. At the end of the day, he wasn't going to be able to say anything about the players, but I know some people were asking what I was laughing about. There were some funny comments in the chat there. I gotta give you guys some credit. There were some funny ones regarding that water bottle. What are your thoughts, Darius?
Yeah, first of all, I saw the comments. We were laughing at the water bottle jokes in the chat because that was hilarious, and it was reminding me of the David Clarkson thing from 10 years ago. So that's what we.
Does the water bottle have ethos?
I was thinking in my head, and I was like, he's having a tough time there. And then the comments just started coming. So that was pretty funny. Good job, everyone. But he said a lot of the right things, but a lot of it was surface level.
Yes.
And I didn't like that. All of the questions about the team and the building of the team, I get that he can't answer that. That is for Brad Treliving. And I want to hear from Brad Treliving. And that's fine that he didn't answer those. But the other stuff, and the other thing to me, saying that he came in, he fired the president of TFC last year. And this is the thing. We have to think about the other teams here because it's all under the same umbrella and will be going forward, the 100% ownership that Rogers will eventually have. That I think he's talking he fired the president or let go of the president of TFC. And he goes, I think we're heading in the right direction. TFC is awful, genuinely awful. And I know it's going to take time to build that up, but it doesn't look like there's a direction there. So that's a little concerning. In terms of the Leafs, he said all the right things, right? He said, we're not here to win playoff series. And his legacy here as an executive will hang on we're not here to sell jerseys, we're here to win championships quote from his first press conference. Everyone's going to hold him to that. And he said a lot of that, the same type of stuff today. So he's saying all the same things, the right things, but you have to execute on these things. And I didn't hear how he's going to execute on that. And the last question, a lot of people were saying, he went through that earlier. Was she not listening? I thought that was a good question because she basically said, we all know why Brendan Shanahan should have been let go. Why did you let him go? What was the reason? Why did you fire him? What did you talk about? And I don't think he gave an answer that was too specific. So there was no real specifics in that. And again, I feel like it was just to have that quote in the beginning of, we understand the frustration from fans, and we want to win a championship, and that's all that matters to us. So he's saying the right things, but I didn't hear how you're going to execute on that. You're getting rid of a president, and now, what's going to happen with the rest of there's 130 hockey operations staff. What's happening with that?
The good news is, I guess it's maybe not good news. We did get some updates surrounding at least the perspective of Treliving there. He's going to be staying. I have full faith in Brad Treliving. I really do. Craig Berube, great there. But yeah, on the Leafs side, when we started hearing Harvard quotes, halfway through there, it was a very interesting, very interesting. And there were some good questions asked by the reporters, and ones that revolved the players. Brad Treliving, of course, wasn't. He's not going to be able to talk about that. Keith Pelley. Brad Treliving was supposed to be there, I guess, or at least couldn't make it because of his, daughter's graduation, which obviously makes a ton of sense. But the question I have now is, will he be speaking out next week? They're having dinner Sunday night, so if we want to put our goggles back on, maybe sometime early next week, we have a meeting about it. But this would have been the one to hear about it, and I'm really hoping we hear from Brad Treliving at some point before June 30th, but also over the next week, just to hear his thoughts on the team here. I'm hoping that needs to happen, I think. I mean, this here was it was more about him making sure everyone knows the new roles and, Brendan Shanahan being fired. We got some interesting info, though. We'll have a video covering it here shortly, but it's it's interesting. I saw a lot of people in chat. They weren't happy. Word soup definitely was a lot of that. It was a lot of that. He's personable though. I think he's solid, but I don't know. It was an interesting one. It was a very interesting one. Shout out to everybody in here. We make Leafs videos every single day, keeping you up multiple a day at this point. So if you're new, hit that subscribe button. We're on the road to 21,000 subscribers.
I do want your opinion on something here, Nick, because you cheer for a team. I mean, I'm a Blue Jays fan as well, but you're more in tune in the day-to-day and what's happening with management and stuff. It looks like probably at this time next year, maybe, that Rogers will own 100% of MLSE. Like, they might rebrand. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if they're just going to absorb the Jays and it's still going to be MLSE, if they rebrand it to something else. But, with them taking over 100% of the Leafs, like, what does that look like? Is that a good thing for fans? Like, because you've seen 100% ownership from Rogers.
The Jays haven't been good. Very similar to the Leafs in the perspective of the way, like, the winning. They haven't really, won anything. Probably a little bit worse. We're going to have to see. It's different, I guess. But again, the front office of the Jays is also, some people hate it, some people love it. But I'm curious from the Leafs perspective how, if this happens, is it going to get more corporate? Is it going to get more open with, because now it's just Brad Treliving. That's what we know. And then Keith Pelley doesn't know a ton about hockey. So at the end of the day, at least as it pertains to at that high level, I think it's better for Leafs fans that it's just going to be Brad Treliving. I think that's kind of where I'm standing with it. I have full faith in him. Now, there is the conversation. If you're strictly talking about the Leafs assets they have, it might be a little tough going forward with minimal first round picks, but at least they have some sort of, and that'll be happening with the MLSE, taking over. They'll have, I think, more structure in place. Whether that's good or bad structure, we'll have to see. But guess what? It can't get worse than what we have right now regarding playoff success anyway. So I think that's kind of the big thing. It's all up from here. But what's interesting now to me is the fact that, again, regarding Brad Treliving, there is infinite questions. John Tavares, Matthew Nyes, Mitch Marner, all these different things. And of course, you can't talk about a lot of them until June 30th. But last year, we heard a lot from Brad Treliving, and now I want to hear from him, just not even if it's about, because he's not going to speak about Mitch Marner leaving. He's going to say that he can hint at it, but just about where he feels this team is from a management perspective, even just his own opinion there. I think that matters a lot here, and we haven't heard from him yet. But of course, he's dealing with, he's doing family priorities, which makes total sense, but I want to hear from him.
Yeah, definitely. I want to hear about what he thought about the team this year and the team that he put together. And I want to hear about what he thinks going into next year, where they need to improve, because he's going to be the guy now. They're not replacing Brendan Shanahan, and by all accounts, they're going to get rid of the president position in every team in this organization. So he's going to report right to Keith Pelley. So he's going to have, he can make whatever moves that he thinks is best. And if he makes a bunch of bad moves, he's going to get fired, right? But I think it's going to be interesting to see what he has to say. I want to hear what he has to say. Again, congratulations to him. I didn't know that's what was going on and why he wasn't there today. So congrats to him and his family. But yeah, I do want to hear what he has to say, because I want to hear specifics on the team. Why weren't you guys good enough? What are you planning to do with the future of the roster? We didn't hear enough of that. I heard a lot of said all the right things today, but it was very surface level. And I want to hear more so about what's happening with the team and the roster and what they're thinking, because it's not good enough. And I didn't like the fact that he brought up Carolina in the press conference, because that's dumb. We could talk about hypotheticals. He also brought up Carolina and then said that we don't talk about hypotheticals in terms of Brendan Shanahan, even though he was discussing a hypothetical a couple minutes earlier. But Yeah, like you can't talk hypotheticals. You lost game 5 and 7 in disastrous fashion again. So what are you going to do about that? Something needs to change in the team. And he was talking about the culture has changed with Keith. I agree to a degree. We saw a different team this year. We really did. But then in those moments where they always collapse, they collapsed again. So something is still not right. And I think it has something to do with the leadership of the team in terms of the players. So I want to hear what Brad Living has to say. It's not complete until we do.
I think we will. I think we will hear from him. But yeah, it's a very good point. Nonstop hypotheticals, and I mean it's very simple. Brendan Shanahan was let go because he didn't make it far at all. That's the end of the now. Why he did it now? It's pretty clear. I think to me at least. The core four is over, so that ends the era of the Shanna plan. I think that was kind of. But I don't even know like how much Keith Pelley is, and not taking anything away from him at all. He's obviously a great mind, but he only joined a year ago. So how much is he really involved with all these things? I think that's what I think it was Rosie. I think that's what her question kind of was. Like, this is your first year here and you take this big step. It's not just him making these calls, but it was interesting to hear about that. But yeah, it's some interesting things in the press conference. The Brad Living one's going to be the biggest one by far. It was intriguing. Just a Keith Pelley one is not what didn't have that in my bingo card, but I'm hoping we need Brad Treliving. That's all I'm asking for. I assume he'll speak at some point. I mean, he will obviously in the offseason, hopefully in the next week or two here. We know that again, they're having dinner on Sunday. So I'm assuming they'll probably schedule a meeting after that. We would hope, because I want to also one thing I also want to add, there actually was a lot of quotes in here. I despised the only thing he said that actually annoyed me was the change thing. That little spiel he had about change being hard, how change is hard and change is difficult in sports, and about the Harvard, what was it? A Harvard comparison. I understand what he's saying.
Yeah.
But like we want change. We want change.
He's not wrong, because change is hard. The easy thing to do is to do what they've always done, which is stay the same and not make any moves. But that is what you need to do. And that's the reason that I think part of the reason Brendan Shanahan was let go. He wasn't fired. He was let go. They're not renewing his contract, whatever. He's not part of the organization anymore. But they're moving in a different direction. That was part of the reason. I think the other reason is MLSE looks at the entire staff and they're like, why are we paying so many people when we're taking over, or Rogers, I should say, why are we paying so many people when we're taking over almost 100% ownership of this team? We don't want to move in this direction anymore. This doesn't work, right? This is dumb. So I think that's, there's two parts to that, but I think majority of the reason is, like you were saying, like change is hard. All of that is true, but that's how you win. You got to make change. Like especially when things are not working, and they didn't do that. This organization did not do that, and it was under Brendan Shanahan at the time. Keith Pelley wasn't here. So Keith Pelley comes in, he sees that they're making the change, which is good. So yeah, got to go in that direction. And I think Shanahan did some great things on the business side for this organization. For the Toronto
I think he was
great things.
A huge net positive overall, even in his 10 years. It's just towards the end. Now, net positive meaning from the business side. On the fan side, you could argue either way. The problem is, of course, at towards the bottom, half of that, especially from years 5 to 10, I guess, of his tenure. Really, from 7 to 10, he should have made some changes. But at the end of the day, it's going to be interesting, and it's going to be interesting to see how they go about necessarily handling the future of this team. And yeah, I'm hoping they ask Brad Treliving specifically, in hindsight, would you have traded Marner? They're probably not going to ask that, and if they do, we're going to hear an answer. But ladies and gentlemen, we will have a video in the next 25 to 30 or so minutes. Now, we're going to do the exact same thing we did last time. If you guys are in the stream right now, comment under the video we're about to upload. We're going to have a quick turnaround time about that video. Just type "you're from the live stream" and leave any other comment you want as well. So just leave that in the comment section. We're going to have a video in a few minutes here, and hopefully you want to see everyone there. But ladies and gentlemen, we'll have another video. More streams coming. We're still doing weekly streams, but of course, these have taken over the press conference. If Brad Treliving has a press conference, we'll have a stream then. We'll be live streaming every step of the way. So this is the only place you need to be, for all these press conferences and all the Leafs news. Darius, any final thoughts here before we wrap up?
Yep, he said a lot of surface level things to a degree, and a lot of the right things. I think that he recognizes that a championship is the only thing that this fan base cares about at this point, and I think that's good. I think there's a narrative that has been floating around the last couple of years that's like, well, as long as we make it to the third round, people still wouldn't have been happy if they lost in this round to Carolina. So A championship is all that matters to this city at this point. The Raptors got one. The Leafs need to win one. So he said that that's what they're going after. I like that, but the rest of it was very surface level. And again, I want to hear from Brad Treliving, and I understand why he wasn't there today, but I hope they have another press conference with Brad Treliving because he's the guy now. It's not Brendan Shanahan. Brendan Shanahan can step in and talk about what they might do in the future. I want to hear what Treliving thinks of the team, the shortcomings, what he's going to do, what he thinks in terms of the lack of leadership in the team, on the roster, and where they're going in the future. Because I heard a lot of the right things, but no real action. They're just removing a position, and then they're like, we'll keep going that way. And I do think that might help because playing broken telephone is annoying. So we'll see.
Ladies and gentlemen, your guys' support's been unbelievable. Tons of content coming. Hopefully, we know there's going to be huge changes, but hopefully you're enjoying all the content. We will see you guys in a video in a few minutes. Stay tuned to the channel. Watch that video. Comment that you were from the stream. We're going to go through each one and read every single comment, but it's going to be a crazy next little while. And the next big piece of info here, I think, is probably going to end up being, I think we're going to slowly but surely start to hear some Mitch Marner things over the next coming days. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for watching, and we will see you in the video in about 30 minutes.
Leafs Digest, your daily dose of gold. Stories of the bold where legends are told. From first puck drop to the season's full. Tune in and watch the drop.